Minhonja had been expecting some bullshit from humans, but casual war crimes was not one of them. Orbital bombardments of raw sewage is one thing. Figuring out that shooting enormous lasers into stars could clean their cores and induce violations of energy conservation is another. Cracking your own planets voluntarily? "You're going to have to back up and tell me where you monkeys got the idea to crack your own planet," he told his tour guide. "We didn't do it to Earth. Someone else did that to us. Neptune, however." Other visitors murmured along each other as a grand gesture was made to the window. Once we were confident we'd reverse-engineered the methods and technologies required to do it, we decided to do it to Neptune. For our whole history, it was famous for being big, blue, and having a weird rotational axis. The human was all smiles as he walked across the viewport, with his chest puffed out, and described the history of primitive astronomy. As enlightening as the convergent mythos of Blue Dot is Water God, he never answered the question, nor stated what the story was implying. Then. So when we were first exploring space, we accepted all too easily when we got a picture from a probe, showed a deep mineral blue. It fit with our expectations and fantasies too well, so it was a great scar upon our collective consciousness when we took new pictures and saw a bleached pale sphere. There was silence for a few breaths. "And so you cracked it?" Minhonja asked. Lower arms crossed while upper arms massaged his snout. "Well, not immediately. It took a blitz invasion trying to decapitate the leadership of our Federation to bring us to the technology to do that." The smooth-talking man then walked over to a projector screen and turned it on. He had to appreciate the halogen bulb shining through a sugar water tank that could polarize the light at different depths and angles in the bath and at the screen. It produced the intended hues and saturations in a way that didn't rely on the free frequency format they usually used. The standard red, green, blue format just sort of looked washed out, and none of the blues ever registered right with him. What was shown were pictures of Earth before the cracking. Forests, clear skies, sunsets, and seas. Every species has a fondness for their own homeworld. Usually, it's made the capital world of the first stellar empire every species eventually forms. We had gone through 3 of those before contact, and were a nearly peaceful collection of colony empires. From what Minhonja knew, nearly peaceful was exaggerating the calmness of the situation. Still, the slideshow of scenes from vintage Earth shifted by. Mountain ranges, sandstone caves, picturesque beaches, monolithic cities. Every species in the crowd liked at least one of the scenes, getting distracted and oohing and awing at one image or another. Several eusocial species practically vibrated at the scenes of famous cities. When first contact was made and someone inevitably found themselves purchasing a big bag of offense over an innocuous statement we made about ourselves, they thought to decimate our species' first empire by capturing our homeworld, this Earth. He pointed to the projection, currently showing a homestead. "I admit," the tour guide continued, "we were caught off guard, still figuring out where we fit into politics and warfare after fending off an annexation attempt from a neighbor. The constituent nations of our then unified government were testing new technologies acquired from that invader when a new one sprung on us." Then was the story everyone knew, how not to slap a human 102. You're past the not doing it step, a guide how not to explode. They invaded from opposing sides of their border with our space, each corner stabbing a line directly toward the core of our territory, avoiding the colonial strongholds, and instead rushing to Earth as fast as physically possible. With only pirates and system militia to resist them until the 4th day, they got far enough in to be free jumps from Earth on each lane. The guide took a breath to calm himself, then another before continuing. "Having almost half your territory crossed, and your capital may be hours from an invasion by a still unknown force is, I believe, very alarming." A few in the crowd chuckled or toasted to the nearly hairless mammal. "Our response was to put down literally everything and crush the invasion force with everything we had. Literally everything. We invented a whole class of ship by shoving planetary ballistic missiles into the ore baskets of mining haulers." The human grinned and chuckled. "You're welcome, by the way." There were more chuckles, and some heckles. The invaders were forced to make a drastic move before they were entirely rebuffed, Losing their supply lines and facing a forward retreat, they decided to hold Earth for ransom. He pressed a button and the projector shifted to scenes of the occupation of Sol. This, in political terms, was a bad idea. We fought them, and when we saw Earth's crust peeling off its misting core, we all resolved to kill not a single other invader. Not out of charity or counter-ransom. We wanted their stuff, to know how it worked. We wanted their maps, we wanted to return the favour and make them watch. Most of the other species present made expressions of approval. They did not know what that entailed. The human colonies tested imitations of that weapon in their own territory, 10s of them. Not bombs, but a very special kind of portal inducer. An array that links the core of a star to the core of a planet, potentially exploding one, imploding the other, and usually killing both. They did that to everything between them and their opponents' capital worlds, forcing armies to watch. Thousands of planets rendered to pebbles and stars to dimly glowing gas giants. A swath of space as deep as the humans could push, rendered into mining dregs. When we eventually calmed down, we returned their armies to them, left them with their original borders intact, and not so kindly demonstrated why you don't provide humanity with a consensus. Then a new set of slides came on. But there was a bright side. Turns out if you balance things just right and push enough psionic potential onto a planet, it can crack in a different way. Holding its core together, its crust floating on new forces, creatures mutating according to their exposure. Still habitable, now magical. He turned back to the projection and said it too softly for most of the crowd to hear, but Minhonja was able to make out. It's probably the only reason we stopped. Before he turned and went back to addressing the assembled species. The slides were of Earth as it was today. Floating plates of stone, bound together by the roots of trees that lived in the magma heat near the planet's core. Whales of gleaming metal leaped up from the mist seas. Towns and cities clinging to the edges and undersides of the islands. But most of all, forests untouched, picturesque lakes, mountains still scraping the stars, and beaches. The farmstead sat the same as before, just a little more happening around it. They deliberately left out the robot armies, continually colonizing the undersides of the islands. Pirate gangs who took up residence after helping the initial evacuation. The dragons sinking islands by inches to draw greater fire breaths, and other terrifying creatures. We still had our Earth, just not the same as before. Sol itself was mostly untouched, and as we began to understand how it happened, we started testing. We wanted to induce that effect ourselves. He chuckled a chuckle the room did not share. Kind of like with a nuclear bomb or our solar hammers. We know what the map says, but we don't quite know how to get there, until we've done it a few times. Like that wasn't something terrifying to say. We blow up planets to learn how to better blow up planets, basically. As if the sun lasers weren't enough. It was with careful calculation and selective testing that we found a reliable method to crack a planet without risking the host star, and also creating the archipelago effect. A careful balance and slight addition, like purposeful sustained fusion power. He gestured to the window. One star can even support several. As for Neptune, we now had a way to bring the planet to the grandeur of its name. The projection flicked and showed a flowchart. We used our solar hammers to flood our star with oxygen before cracking Neptune, turning its hydrogen composition to water, filling it up with salt and nitrogen to become a tropical paradise for the species orphaned by Earth's cracking. With the island formations expressing as wavering bands of crushing pressure, and its diameter now twice what it started at Neptune, is the water world, finally able to live up to its name. The tour guide stood tall and proud, as the projection shifted to show great resort cities on the surface. Someone in the crowd spoke up. "You turned it blue?" "Yes," came the proud response, with a scary grin.